What do you want to tell me now, tough guy? I said, Bing, what are you doing here? I thought I'd tell you to go f*** your mother. I thought he was gonna shit. Pow, Bing, what the fuck is...
Goodfellas. 1990 by Martin Scorsese is not just a film, but a masterpiece that redefined the modern gangster genre. With its perfect blend of a true story, exceptional performances, and bold directorial style. The film explores every facet of the mafia world, from its seductive opulence to its unforgiving and brutal crimes. However, behind the film's brilliance lie surprising and fascinating behind-the-scenes stories ranging from real-life details that surpass imagination to creative moments that made cinematic history. From Henry Hill, who later confessed to committing murders that he kept secret when cooperating with the FBI, and writing Wise Guy to the 296 curse words featured in the film more than any other movie at the time. Let's dive into 20 strange, shocking, and utterly unexpected facts about this iconic classic. 1. The film uses 296 curse words.
Nobody does that to me. Who the hell do you think you are? Frankie Valli or some kind of big shot?
Slow down. Don't give me a f***ing drink. Move it, you little prick. You walk like f***ing Step and Fetch him. Everybody else, you'll f***ing run. Run for...
Goodfellas is one of the most violent and realistic films about the mafia world. But what makes it stand out is the number of curse words used. In total, the film has 296 obscene words averaging 2 per minute. Notably, half of them come from Joe Pesci's character Tommy DeVito, who is not only known for his hot temper, but also for his unapologetically blunt way of speaking. Tommy's profanity-laden dialogues not only enhance the authenticity of the character, but also make the film more vivid, intense, and unforgettable. However, what's even more amusing is Joe Pesci's mother's reaction after watching the film. She humorously asked her son, "Did you really need to swear that much?" Nevertheless, this very style contributed to Tommy's success as a character, both dangerous and unpredictable. 2. 6 Oscar nominations. You will win.
The Oscar goes to Joe Pesci in Goodfellas.
Goodfellas is one of the greatest mafia films of all time, but the number of Oscars it won surprised many. At the 1991 Academy Awards, the film received 6 prestigious nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Adapted Screenplay. However, Goodfellas only won 1 Oscar, and that victory went to Joe Pesci for his portrayal of Tommy DeVito. Pesci delivered an outstanding performance, perfectly embodying a hot-headed, violent, and unpredictable gangster. When he stepped onto the stage to accept the award, Joe Pesci stunned the audience with the shortest speech in Oscar history. "It is my privilege. Thank you." A total of 5 words. Despite not winning many awards, Goodfellas remains regarded as a masterpiece by Martin Scorsese, far beyond the numbers of accolades it received. 3. Fat Andy and the NYPD officer turned actor.
And then there was Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy, and his guys.
Louis Ippolito, who played Fat Andy in Goodfellas, was an interesting figure, even in real life. Before appearing in the film, Ippolito was a detective with the New York Police Department, NYPD. However, what made him truly unique was his family's strong ties to the mafia, an unusual background for a police officer. Ippolito's role as Fat Andy was small, but contributed significantly to the realistic depiction of the underworld that Goodfellas built. But the story doesn't end there. After the film's release, Ippolito continued an acting career, but in 2005, he and his colleague Stephen Caracappa were arrested for murder, extortion and corruption during their time as police officers. The charges included working for the mafia and carrying out multiple contract killings. Ippolito and Caracappa were sentenced to life in prison, and the case became one of the biggest scandals in NYPD history. Ippolito's small role in Goodfellas ended up reflecting his real life quite accurately, a story even Hollywood would struggle to write. art and life sometimes intersect in the most unexpected ways, and Ippolito's story is a clear testament to that. 4. Paulie Cicero and Henry Hill's wife. Paul Vario. The inspiration for Paulie Cicero's character in Goodfellas was one of the most powerful mafia bosses in New York. But beyond his criminal activities, Vario delivered a major shock to Henry Hill in real life. While Henry was in prison, Paul Vario had an affair with Karen Hill, Henry's wife. This betrayal was not only a deep stab in the back, but also one of the reasons Henry lost trust in the mafia and decided to cooperate with the FBI. Although this story wasn't depicted on screen, it helps explain Henry Hill's complex psychology when he decided to betray the mafia family in exchange for freedom. Karen Hill later admitted that her relationship with Paul Vario made her feel trapped in a world full of deceit and betrayal. This is one of the real-life details showing that relationships in the mafia world are never as simple as they seem. 5. The Lufthansa heist, an unresolved mystery. The Lufthansa heist on December 11, 1978, was one of the most infamous robberies in American history. A mafia crew stole $5 million in cash and $1 million in jewelry from JFK Airport, a massive sum at the time. In Goodfellas, the heist was portrayed in detail and with accuracy, but in real life it remains an unsolved mystery. After the robbery, the participants were systematically eliminated, and the FBI faced many challenges in its investigation. No one knows where the stolen money and jewelry went, and the case remains one of the greatest mysteries of the criminal underworld. In 2014, the FBI arrested Vincent Asaro, a member of the Gambino crime family, on suspicion of participating in the heist, but he was ultimately acquitted due to a lack of evidence. Nevertheless, the Lufthansa heist remains a symbol of audacity and ruthlessness in the mafia world. Goodfellas successfully brought this heist to the screen, but in real life it remains an open-ended story fueling endless curiosity and fascination. 6. The final scene breaks editing rules. The final scene of Goodfellas is one of the most memorable moments as Henry Hill spirals into extreme paranoia. To convey this emotion, editor Thelma Shoemaker employed a style that defied conventional film editing rules. Rapid jump cuts abruptly interrupted music overlapping dialogue, and a frenetic pace created an atmosphere of suffocating tension, putting the audience in Henry's disoriented, fearful and chaotic state of mind. Initially, this editing style made test audiences uncomfortable due to its disjointed rhythm. However, Scorsese and Shoemaker decided to keep it because they wanted viewers to experience Henry's loss of control. The result was one of the boldest techniques in cinema, transforming a mafia story into a deeply psychological experience. 7. Michael Imperioli injured during the spider scene.
Prick. Feels like his bones are all shining.
Little fucking actor.
I got a great head.
The scene where Spider is shot dead by Tommy is not only haunting on screen, but also left a memorable behind-the-scenes story. While filming this scene, Michael Imperioli's Spider fell hard onto a glass bottle, severely cutting his hand. The injury was so serious that Imperioli had to be rushed to the hospital. Amusingly, the doctors and nurses thought he had actually been shot because of how realistic the makeup was. Imperioli had to explain that he was injured during filming. Despite the severe injury, he returned to the set to finish his role, showcasing his professionalism and dedication. The scene where Spider is shot by Tommy is one of the most important in Goodfellas, not only for its violence, but also for vividly portraying Tommy DeVito's brutality and lack of humanity. 8. 10 violent scenes cut to avoid an NC-17 rating. When completing Goodfellas, Martin Scorsese faced a major challenge from the Motion Picture Association of America (MPAA). The film was initially rated NC-17 due to its high level of violence, which would have prevented it from being widely released. To avoid this, Scorsese and editor Thelma Schoonmaker had to cut or modify 10 violent scenes. Key moments such as the killings of Billy Bat's spider and the post-Lufthansa heist purges were shortened to reduce their direct impact on audiences. Instead of removing the scenes entirely, Scorsese used quick cuts, reduced screen time and changed camera angles to maintain the sense of violence without overwhelming the audience. Even after these edits, the scenes remained powerful enough to depict the mafia's brutal world. This decision not only saved the film from being banned, but also demonstrated Scorsese's talent for balancing artistry with commercial appeal. As a result, Goodfellas received an R rating and became one of the most iconic films in the crime genre. 9. Henry Hill expelled from the Witness Protection Program. Henry Hill, the protagonist of Goodfellas, was not only a cinematic legend, but also had a tumultuous real-life story. After cooperating with the FBI and helping convict 50 members of the Lucchese crime family, Henry was placed in the Witness Protection Program. However, he was quickly expelled for violating the rules. Henry frequently revealed his real identity, appeared in the media, and was even arrested for drug-related crimes. Despite being removed from the program, Henry managed to survive in a world where betrayal often meant death. After leaving the program, he wrote books, launched the Wise Guy spaghetti sauce brand, and appeared on various television programs. Henry passed away in 2012 from heart disease, but his story continues to live on through Goodfellas. His expulsion from the Witness Protection Program is just one of many details that show how Henry Hill's life was even more complex and bizarre than any movie. 10. Lorraine Bracco almost turned down the role of Karen Hill. Lorraine Bracco, who played Karen Hill in Goodfellas, initially refused the role. She didn't want to become the stereotypical mafia wife, a character often sidelined and secondary. However, after reading the script, Bracco realized Karen Hill was not a simple character. Karen was a complex woman, torn between her love for her husband and her fear of the violent mafia world. Karen wasn't just a wife standing behind her husband. She was a character with depth whose emotions and decisions played a critical role in the story. Bracco turned her scenes into highlights of the film, making the audience both empathize with and be haunted by her character. Her performance earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. With Karen Hill, Lorraine Bracco proved that a female character in a mafia film could be strong, independent, and captivating, rather than merely a backdrop for the men's story. 11. The Copacabana scene was filmed in a single take. One of the most iconic scenes in Goodfellas is when Henry Hill takes Karen into the Copacabana nightclub through the kitchen entrance. This 3-minute-long sequence was shot in a single take with no cuts. The result is a vivid, immersive experience as though the audience is walking right behind the characters. Initially, the plan was to film the scene through the front entrance. However, due to a crowded area blocked by fans and equipment, Scorsese decided to use the kitchen entrance instead. This spontaneous decision turned out to be a stroke of genius. The crew rehearsed meticulously to perfect the scene. A Steadicam followed the actors through narrow spaces, while the lighting, sound, and supporting actors all had to sync perfectly. It took 8 takes to achieve the final version. Even small details such as the waiter setting up the table and delivering champagne were carefully choreographed. The scene not only highlights Henry's power and charm, but also shows how Karen is drawn to the mafia's luxurious yet dangerous world. It stands as a cinematic masterpiece, a lesson in visual storytelling, and a testament to Scorsese's and his team's brilliance. 12. Prosecutor Edward MacDonald played himself. Edward MacDonald, the real-life prosecutor who convinced Henry Hill to join the Witness Protection Program, was not only the inspiration for his character in the film, but also appeared on screen to play himself. When the film crew visited MacDonald's office to study the setting, he suggested playing his own role in the scene. Scorsese, impressed by McDonald's natural demeanour and confident communication, agreed after a brief audition. In the scene, McDonald appears calm but persuasive, explaining to Henry and Karen that they have no choice but to cooperate with the FBI. Notably, McDonald not only recreated the real-life conversation accurately, but also brought an unparalleled sense of authenticity to the film. For Scorsese, having a real-life figure play such a significant role added an extra layer of realism to the story. After the film's release, McDonald was credited as one of the elements that contributed to Goodfellas' success. He left his mark not only as a real-life prosecutor, but also with a memorable on-screen performance that brought the mafia world vividly to life. 13. Ray Liotta listened to FBI recordings. To perfectly embody the role of Henry Hill, Ray Liotta spent hours listening to FBI recordings, which contained Hill's testimonies about the mafia world and behind-the-scenes details of the Lufthansa heist. These recordings were taken from interviews and wiretapped conversations after Hill began cooperating with the government in 1980. Liotta used his commute to the film set to listen to these tapes. He wanted to capture not only Hill's tone and manner of speaking, but also his energy, anxiety, and the constant tension in his voice. In an interview, Liotta shared that listening to Hill helped him better understand the character's mindset, a man constantly living in fear of retaliation while trying to maintain a calm exterior. This meticulous preparation resulted in a performance that was both authentic and compelling. Henry Hill in Goodfellas was not just a criminal, but a complex man torn between loyalty and fear. Liotta's dedication gave the character a rare depth, making audiences simultaneously despise and empathize with him. 14. Martin Scorsese's parents participated in the film. Martin Scorsese is not only a talented director, but also someone who values family deeply. In Goodfellas, he brought both of his parents into the production process. His father, Charles Scorsese, appeared in the prison cooking scene, while his mother, Catherine Scorsese, played Tommy DeVito's mother. Their involvement extended beyond acting. Catherine personally cooked the real sauce used in the prison scene because Scorsese didn't trust the prop team to replicate authentic Italian cooking. Meanwhile, Charles ensured the actors' collars were properly pressed to reflect the mafia style of the 1960s and 1970s. The participation of Scorsese's parents not only added authenticity to the film, but also highlighted the director's meticulous attention to detail. For Scorsese, family was not just an inspiration, but an integral part of his creative process. Goodfellas became not only a mafia film, but also a heartfelt work shaped by familial contributions. 15. Differences between Tommy in real life and in the film. Tommy DeVito, portrayed by Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, was based on a real-life figure, Thomas Two Gun DeSimone. However, there are significant differences between the character in the film and the real person. In the movie, Tommy is depicted as a small, hot-tempered man whose impulsive actions are often attributed to Napoleon syndrome. In reality, DeSimone was a towering figure standing 6'2", about 1.88 meters, and weighing over 200 pounds, about 90 kilograms. DeSimone was a notorious hitman, known for his violent temperament and uncontrollable ruthlessness. He not only killed Billy Batts, a member of the Gambino crime family, but also murdered Ronald Foxy Giroth, who was under the protection of John Gotti. These actions ultimately led to DeSimone's execution by his own organisation. Henry Hill, in interviews, stated that Pesci's portrayal accurately captured DeSimone's aggressive and unpredictable nature. However, the physical appearance was altered in the film to create a different dynamic, heightening the tension and unpredictability of Tommy's character. This blend of reality and creative interpretation helped Pesci win an Oscar and made Tommy DeVito one of the most terrifying screen characters of all time. 16. A comedic version of Goodfellas. A month before Goodfellas premiered in September 1990, a comedy film titled My Blue Heaven was released. And interestingly, it was also based on Henry Hill's story. The script was written by Nora Ephron, the wife of Nicholas Pileggi, the author of Wise Guy, the book from which Goodfellas was adapted. While Goodfellas focused on the dark and violent aspects of mafia life, My Blue Heaven offered a humorous and light-hearted perspective. The protagonist of My Blue Heaven is a former gangster played by Steve Martin, living under the Witness Protection Program. The film highlights the fish-out-of-water comedy as he tries to adjust to life in a quiet suburban community while holding on to his mafia habits and personality. According to reports, Nora Ephron and Nicholas Pileggi worked on the scripts for both films simultaneously, at home even sharing ideas with each other. The contrast between Goodfellas and My Blue Heaven, one showcasing brutal realism and the other playful humour, offered audiences two entirely different takes on the life of a gangster like Henry Hill. 17. The funny how scene was based on a true story. One of the most iconic scenes in Goodfellas is when Tommy DeVito asks Henry Hill, "Funny how am I a clown? Do I amuse you?" This scene creates intense tension as Tommy suddenly shifts from joking to threatening, leaving everyone in the room unsure of what will happen. Interestingly, this scene wasn't in the original script. It was suggested by Joe Pesci and inspired by a real-life event. When Pesci was younger, he worked at a restaurant and casually told a gangster that he was funny. The gangster immediately turned serious and threatened Pesci. Pesci shared this story during production, and Martin Scorsese decided to incorporate it into the film. What's even more fascinating is that the scene was entirely improvised. Scorsese instructed the other actors in the room not to know the dialogue in advance, so their reactions would be genuine. Their surprise and unease added to the scene's authenticity, making it one of the most unforgettable moments in the film. 18. Henry Hill's involvement in the production. Henry Hill wasn't just the inspiration for Goodfellas, he also directly participated in its production as a consultant. After cooperating with the FBI and leaving the mafia world, Hill helped Nicholas Pileggi complete the book Wise Guy and worked closely with the film crew to ensure accuracy. Hill was paid around $480,000 for his role as a consultant, a significant sum, though he admitted it was nothing compared to the money he made during his peak in the mafia. Hill provided detailed insights into events and helped the actors better understand their characters. Both Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro relied on him to capture the mannerisms and psychology of Henry Hill and Jimmy Conway. Despite being part of the Witness Protection Program, Hill appeared in the media to promote the film and even launched a spaghetti sauce brand called Wise Guy. 19. Differences between Henry Hill in the film and in real life. In Goodfellas, Henry Hill is portrayed as someone who avoids direct involvement in murders, instead taking on a coordinating and supporting role in criminal activities. However, in real life, Hill admitted in a 2001 interview that he had killed at least 3 people under orders from Paul Vario, the inspiration for Paulie Cicero in the film. Hill explained that he didn't disclose this information to Nicholas Pileggi while writing Wise Guy because he didn't trust anyone at the time. He was never charged with murder due to a lack of concrete evidence. This revelation surprised many, as the depiction of Henry Hill in the film painted him as a slightly lighter criminal compared to his mafia counterparts. 20. Audiences walked out during the first 10 minutes. When Goodfellas was first screened for test audiences, the reaction was far from what the filmmakers expected. Many people walked out of the theatre within the first 10 minutes. The reason the movie opens with a violent and bloody scene where Henry Hill, Tommy DeVito and Jimmy Conway kill Billy Batts. The vulgar language, graphic violence and fast pace left many viewers shocked and uncomfortable. One Warner Brothers executive reportedly turned pale after watching the scene. However, Martin Scorsese was unfazed. He explained that the film's purpose was to shock the audience and force them to confront the brutal reality of the mafia world. After receiving feedback from the test screenings, Scorsese adjusted the pacing and toned down some of the most graphic elements while still preserving the film's bold spirit. The result, Goodfellas, was warmly received upon its official release and quickly became a cinematic masterpiece. It proved that sometimes boldness and realism are the keys to success. And those are the most surprising and shocking facts about Goodfellas. A film that not only tells the story of the mafia world, but also amazes us with the real-life details behind the scenes. Over 30 years have passed, yet Goodfellas remains an irreplaceable masterpiece of cinema. Thank you for following along, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to discover more fascinating secrets.